We'll get started here in a second. Just going to do some video and sound checks, make sure everything's good. Hope you are all doing well. Sound is good. Video is good. All right. My God. All right. Video was good. Let's try this again. I don't know why it does that. Sometimes I need to redo this twice and then it'll fix itself. Let's give that a shot. What's up, Charles? How are you, bud? What is going on with this video? All right. Yeah, for whatever reason, I live stream from my Mac, and when it's on full screen, like when I first put it on full screen, it'll do that. It'll like hyper zoom in. I minimize. I click to the intro screen. I reset the same setting. I go back to full screen, then it's working. Charles, how are you, bud? Hope you're doing good. We'll see if a couple others show up today. Got me a coffee, and I got Bitcoin on the 4-hour time frame. Thanks, buddy. I am doing great. I'm doing great. Some good things happening this month. So, you know, I'm sure you've been paying attention to what Bitcoin's been up to. 11% day today. I'm going to talk about that a little bit. We're going to run through a number of the indicators, but yeah, I'm doing very well. Excited for the Super Bowl. I am personally not a fan of either of the teams. Some of you guys may hate me saying this. I'm a Packer guy, but my wife is a Seahawks fan. And so I'm going to root for her and hope that they get revenge from not running the damn ball back when they had Marshawn. What time zone am I in? I'm in Western or Pacific time zone. How about you, bud? So for me, it's almost noon. But I had to get a couple errands done this morning. And then I get going with these. There's some crypto people I like, and I can tell they're Eastern time zone because they get videos out like before I'm even waking up. And then I don't know if you follow any of these guys. There's a lot of Australian crypto people, finance people on YouTube with some good content. There's one guy I discovered not too long ago called FX Evolution. You're in Chattanooga, dude. I love Chattanooga. But there's let me finish my thought here. There's a guy called FX Evolution, maybe one of my favorite new channels as far as stocks and stuff. Chattanooga, Tennessee. I went to Chattanooga, probably like 10 years ago. There's a park near there. What's it called? There's this waterfall that's indoors, or not indoors, inside of a cave. Because you're right on the border of Georgia. And then there's this park where I think they call it Lover's Leap or something. It's a beautiful park. Trying to remember. I'm looking at my Google map. Yeah, Lookout Mountain. Maybe that's it. No, it wasn't Glen Falls. Anyways, I have family in North Carolina, so I was driving through there one day. Stopped in, I believe it's called Ashland, North Carolina, where they had some of the bad floods and stuff. This is way before that. But yeah, Chattanooga is pretty cool. The Pizzino Bros. Ruby Falls. Yes, thank you. It's been a while. That's it, though. That was a cool place. So before I get into crypto, I got to tell you, this is so funny. On the way to Ruby Falls, we're hiking as a group together, walking as a group together. And we're inside the cave, and this guy, he's being very overzealous and silly, this older fella. And he drinks some water, some stagnant water from this little, just this pocket in the cave, this little pocket where there's some standing water. He drinks from it. And I remember thinking to myself, like, what's this idiot doing? Like, you don't know if there's uh, bat excrement or even the minerals in the cave. Like, that's not good for you. And this guy thought, so he's like, oh, this tastes pretty good. And like pretty close to the end, his stomach was hurting and he was about to dump in his pants. Inside, I was laughing quite hard at him just because how stupid that was. But yeah, he started out being very silly, overzealous, annoying, and then at the end, he was about to take a crap in his pants, and it couldn't be more cathartic. All right, let's get into crypto stuff, shall we? So, Bitcoin, 11-12% rebound today. Why is that important? For any of you that have been around here, whether you're watching live or in replay, when we see these insane rallies, from my experience, the last 10 years I've been watching markets and charts, we get these giant moves typically during a bear market. When you fall, you're going to have these rallies, these insane rallies, some of the biggest market moves. And I remember seeing macro data like I've shown y'all on Subaru Trade before, where the biggest moves usually come during a downtrend. So right now I'm on the 4-hour time frame. You can see this recent move we had for Bitcoin, a 39% move. And of course, we got a little bit of it back. And during bear markets, just something to watch out for is we'll get these retracements. I think 2017 is a great example of this. I'm on the weekly time frame, so this will have to do. This is just going to be approximate. But when we get these bear markets, let me make sure my fib is on log. Perfect. It is normal to get these bounces of a 0.5 retrace or a 618 retrace. Let's go to the next one. What was that one from top to bottom? Just over and over again. Yeah, 618 to 786 retrace. Okay, over and over again. This is just something to watch out for. And then this one to the next, well, I guess that works still. 618 retrace. So just do keep an eye out for some of these big bounces. During bear markets, it's easy to feel bullish again. And I mean, why wouldn't you? Like when we have COVID here, where you get this V recovery, at what point do you know it's a V recovery? And I think if any of you watched my video on Monday, you know what I'm looking for. I'm willing to be patient, look for more macro confirmation. Okay. And so, here's just the moving averages, for example. And if you want to make this in two ways, as simple as you can for yourself, let's say you're very bullish on Bitcoin and crypto. One of the things you can take a look at is say, you know what, 4-year cycle, we have these 4-year tops. And last time we had this 4-year top, the bottom was right around the former top. Are we going to get that again? The bottom being right around the former top. We're near there, okay? Another perspective you can have, and this is just a simple moving average indicator, and I don't recommend this totally, but you can make the argument, hey, every time Bitcoin is at or under the 200-week moving average, that's a pretty good time to buy. And that's where we're at right now. However, I will say, for argument's sake, here are the bottoms in 2015, 2018, 2019. This is the 50-month moving average, all right? We're on the monthly time frame now. This is the 50-month moving average. That was the bottom. 2017, 2020, this is COVID, of course. This is the 50-month moving average. Last cycle, we got underneath that, the 100. I'm more in line with thinking towards the 100 for a couple reasons. Here's Bitcoin Hunter, by the way. I love this indicator. We rarely ever touch it. Rarely. Last cycle, we got underneath it. Okay. So that would give us a target between 46 and 54K. If Bitcoin gets there and shows any sort of a reversal to the upside, I'm going to go through the indicators, the MACD, the RSI, the stochastic RSI. Let's actually just show that here so you guys know what I'm talking about. If we see any sort of positive confirmation in a bear market, I like more confirmation. I'm not looking at leading indicators as much as I'm looking at lagging confirming indicators. When the stochastic starts to curl up and get into the positive shaded zone, boom, there we are. And this is after we've been completely bottom for a while. Right here, boom. Are you getting the very bottom? No. And if you want to scale in these areas, I don't hate that. Here, you could say, well, we bottomed out and that went up. Well, we didn't completely bottom. Just recently, we completely bottomed on the stochastic. And when we got out of there, again, you're not getting the very bottom. But if you're getting anywhere near this area, I don't hate that. Here, we've completely bottomed. So as we stay completely bottom, you can see price can go lower. But the next time the stochastic starts to come up, I will feel more optimistic about it. One of the reasons I think we have a little bit more downside as well, you take a look at the ultimate RSI, you can see how deep we bottom. This was the bottom back here. Here's the COVID bottom. We haven't even reached that. I like ultimate RSI. That hasn't curled up yet. Reverse Cutler's RSI. I've seen a lot of things on Twitter recently. Here's one. You can see we're not quite bottomed out yet. COVID didn't, so keep an eye on that. On the weekly, we are. Anyways, lose my train of thought. You guys know how I am. On Twitter, a lot of people are talking about the RSI, how oversold we are. Remember, that's just the strength of the move to the downside. RSI isn't always correlative. So any one of these indicators, it's a data point. I want you to know that. All because the stochastic's curling up, as I just showed you before, doesn't mean I'm taking that home to the bank. All because the weekly reverse Cutler's RSI is showing a bottom signal. Well, it did that here. If you would have bought this one, been very confident, hey, I'm getting 30K Bitcoin. Yeah, right now you'd have a 2X, but God, you waited how long for that? Here, yeah, that was good. So that first stochastic isn't always good. And you can see we're probably going to get a relief rally if we play out something like 2022. But going over back to the monthly thing, the reason why I'm leaning towards this 100, a Bitcoin bottom in here is because this is what we see on the rainbow chart. And by the way, props to the guy who left a comment in German on how much he hates the rainbow chart. I salute you. Thank you for telling me how you feel. All right. I will reiterate, the rainbow chart isn't the end all be all. None of these indicators are, but we take a look at the indicators together. Is there a common theme? Is there a common narrative? So the rainbow chart, I will admit, isn't perfect. We can look at the prior rainbow chart for that. You can see how it flattens out more and these tops get away. This is, by the way, my issue with the power law as well. The power law and some of these other indicators, I don't buy it. I don't buy it because they go more up on a 45. Bitcoin does move in a log regression, but I think it flattens out more than what the rainbow chart shows. I think if this rainbow chart was more accurate, so I'm agreeing with you, whoever that German guy was that said the rainbow chart sucks. I agree with you. This top needs to be more flat. And with that being said, maybe the bottom needs to be more flat as well. Okay, so it's not perfect and it's still useful data. One of the reasons it's useful is there's no arguing this. Bitcoin is moving on a log regression. And because of that, it's going to move more horizontally over time and less vertically. That is another reason why that horizontal movement, why I'd gravitate towards a bottom being in this range. Some people think down here in the 40Ks, maybe, I want to, right now, I'm just stacking cash. I scale in every month. I have a portion of my paycheck for investment purposes. This is what I do. I'm not telling you what to do, but I have a certain amount of money every month. That's my budget for investing. I'm stacking some of that cash, or have been for a little bit. Unless any of my stocks are at nice values. And I'll just tell you this, I recently did my taxes not long ago, and there was some stocks and crypto assets I did well on last year. Some of the mining stocks, Palantir, Nvidia, Meta. There were some that I was able to get some good profits in. But altcoins, I'm right there with some of you guys. I'm holding a bag of dog shit. Sorry for the language. I'm holding a bag of crap waiting for this next alt season, waiting for the money flow cycle. Okay. And so I am suffering with you guys. I'm not claiming to know where exactly the top is. But the reason I say this is, when I look at what I made money on, that alters my perspective moving forward a little bit. Like, all right, I made solid money on some of these tech assets, tech stocks during this part of the bull run, where I would argue, we are in a bubble. I think the bubble can go higher personally, but it's not going to go straight up. I made solid, consistent money on dividend stocks. Dividend stocks, up or down, they pay you to own them. And, that's a nice, safe way. But, we're here for crypto. And I think one of the allures of crypto, let's be honest about this. There's a lot of BS out there about crypto, how it's a hedge against inflation. If that were true, we wouldn't be seeing this go down as gold's going up. Crypto, for all intents and purposes, is the most speculative of tech assets. If the market is risk off, what do you think is going to be selling first? The most speculative tech, right? Which actually, this is one chart I wanted to take a look at today. The Russell 2000. I wanted to see how this one's like. I mean, this one's still bullish, which is interesting. It's running into the 1236. Is that fib on log? Nope. Okay. So it has to break that 1236. So anyways, we need to be very risk on in order for crypto to do well. Whether we're going to get, our classic 4-year cycle, where this is the argument the 4-year cyclists are making. Which is, I'm not going to discount it. They say, from the peak to the bottom, that would say October of this year. October of this year is going to be the bottom. That's what they say. It moves in patterns. And, there is some cyclical nature to it. That's what some people are looking for. A bottom around October, give or take. They might be right. And, one thing we've talked about is the 4-year cycle is no longer the money flow cycle. So that's why I'm still holding my altcoins. I had a comment, hey, I have some altcoins. Should I sell? Should I cut my losses? I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'll tell you what I'm doing. And again, I may be stupid for this. I have Chainlink, I have some Fetch, which, these look like dog crap right now. I'm waiting for the market to turn positive before I buy in. But, I'm seeing the portfolio go down with some of these things I'm holding. I'm right there with you guys. And the money flow cycle, in my opinion, is not done yet. So I'm going to wait it out. I invested into speculative tech assets such as crypto, knowing that I'm going to not get profits on all of them. I know that. You have to understand that risk. You're not going to bat 1,000 with crypto. But if you can diversify your money, this is what I do. Put it across mining stocks, altcoins I like. And if you pick the right asset, which is the number one goal, you will make money overall. Let's just say I did 5 assets. Let's say I did Fetch, Link, and 3 mining stocks. Wolf, Cypher, and Mara. Well, 3 of those 5 did not work out for me. Okay, Mara, yes, look at this. Mara's up 20+% today. It's crazy. 3 of those did not work out. 2 of them did. And I will tell you, the 2 that did more than made up for the money I didn't make in the other 3. So that's why I diversify. Again, I'm not telling you what to do, but for the money I did make, it far exceeded the money I didn't make. Let's say you put $1,000 in each, 1,000, 1,000, 1,000. Some of them are just nothing. And let's say, negative 3,000. Okay. These two have nearly 10x, if not more. So that's 10, 20,000 minus the 3,000, 17,000 net gain. Do you guys see my approach here? So I'm not claiming to bat 1,000. Some of these, Mara, Hive, they're very crypto correlated. But that's my plan. That's how I approach this. I approach it knowing some of these are going to suck, and that's okay. But if you hit on any that don't, let's look at some of those. Let's look at Wolf. Let's look at Cypher. And by the way, what I'm telling you is, I won't tell you the exact numbers. It's not too far off from what the reality of my situation was. If I got Wolf down here and it did more than a 10x, Dr. 420 still holding Wolf. Do consider Dr. 420. I don't know where you bought it, but if you have a 10x, I'm just saying, consider maybe taking some profits. It is in an ascending channel. I am surprised some of these aren't dying because you'll see, we can look at all the mining stocks. I knew what you meant. I'm not a spelling teacher. I'm not going to correct you on that. I will just warn you, this is what mining stocks can do when it's really bad. I'm not saying it can't go up, but if you bought Wolf anywhere around this $2 mark, you may want to consider taking some profits, not financial advice. But again, I made dang near 10x on Wolf and Cypher. Okay. Those worked out for me. I mean, look at this Cypher, nice 10x, even though it's down here and it's looking, more bearish. I did not make profits or take profits on Mara, Link, Fetch, what profits? But again, I'm just saying, from those 5 assets, and I've invested in more crypto assets than this. Some of you might be able to read between the lines. Let's say it was, $1,000 in each of those 5. Link, Fetch, Mara, I'm at a loss. Negative 3,000. I invested 3,000. I haven't had profits, nothing to withdraw, right? But then the 1,000 I invested in these, 10x, that's 20,000. 20 minus 3, 17,000. So that's my plan. That's how I've done well in each of these crypto cycles. Again, I'm not trying to tell you what to do. The number one thing is to pick the right asset, all right? And to get in when times suck, like right now. And I'm not telling you to get in right now, but I think for those of you who are here, Dr. 420, all you guys are here right now. And you will benefit from this in the long run. I truly believe that. Okay. Crypto golfer, you guys will benefit from this in the long run. Dr. 420, if you're okay with sharing, I'm curious, where did you get in on Wolf? I'm curious. You don't have to say if it's, private information. I'm not here to judge you. I'm here to root for all you guys to make money. And I will be honest with you about stuff I haven't made money on. I've been saying for a while, hey, I like Mara. I like Link. And I will be honest with you. Hey, I didn't make money on this shit. Sorry for swearing. Okay, I'll stop. By the way, as far as Link, which is an altcoin I love, we've been talking about this head and shoulders. Boom, it's playing out. If Link settles in around $6-7, I'm buying more. If I liked and loved Link up here, I should be ecstatic to get it down here. Around $1. Dr. 420 bought Wolf at around $1. I'm so happy for you, dude. I hope you are able to take some real money from that. You got it down here, bro. You're awesome. Dr. 420 is awesome. DC8 over 2 years. All right. When I did my taxes not too long ago, like I got to see some of the capital gains and, like Palantir and some of these, I held over a year. So yeah, there were some taxes, but not as bad as it could have been. Charles, I followed Dan's suggestion and took profits from July through November of last year. Couldn't be happier. Nice, Charles. Way to go. 7,000 shares, 7K in shares right now. Profits on Bitcoin. Nice, guys. I love hearing that you guys are making money, right? I'm rooting for all of you. I hate to see people lose money. And that's part of the reason I made this channel is, you know, I'm not saying this to pat myself on the back, but I've made money the last two cycles having a similar approach as what I just shared with you. I diversified, put money in what I like. And even if you bat, like 30% or yeah, 30%, 300 in baseball terms, if you get 3 out of 10 right, and let's say you invest the same overall across, you're not going to hit on everything, but you are going to make massive profits. So I did that in here with Tron and DNT. Did it again with DNT and some other stuff back here. I forget. Did it again. Okay. Some of the stuff I'm holding, and it sucks. Anyways, I'm going to get off of that right now. I want to take a look at some other charts with you. And let's try to find where this potential bottom might be. And by the way, have any of you looked at tether dominance? Holy crap. Earlier in the week, I'm like, maybe the golden pocket will be the top. It's like, damn, this thing's taking off. Tether dominance is taking off. Which one do we want? I'm sure the MACD's just, yeah, look how bullish that is. So we need to see a MACD, turn negative. My God. I wonder. I'm sure the bubble risk indicator. Yeah. So we're getting awfully high for tether dominance. I'm looking for some areas where tether dominance can pop, where it can top out. Because once it tops out, you guys know that's inverse correlation from what Bitcoin's doing. And so that's one of our other indicators. Let's run through a couple of these before I get to more Bitcoin stuff. Others - Bitcoin. I mean, to me, this says altcoins have already pretty much bled out for the most part. I'm surprised it's not lower. One of the charts that really surprised me is Bitcoin dominance. This one really surprised me. I mean, look at this. It just continues to get rejected, but Bitcoin dominance is going down because money's exiting everything. And maybe, instead of a flight to Bitcoin, look at that strong wick off the 100, by the way. Instead of a flight to Bitcoin, maybe the altcoins have already been rugged. And now that money's coming out of Bitcoin, that's why the dominance is going down. So it doesn't necessarily mean this is good for alts. We don't have that money flow rotation yet, even though we're here. Let's take a look at ETH Bitcoin. ETH Bitcoin, this is one of the things I talked about, for all intents and purposes, comparing to the alt season in 2021, 2020-21. You can see ETH Bitcoin, this was quantitative easing started here. We topped at the 0.5 fib, which is 0.25. Again, that means, this percent compare market cap. So right now, Ethereum's market cap is 18% of Bitcoin. That's what that means. But you can see we hit a similar level, came down to 236, hit that level again, bounced the moving average alt season. Are we getting something similar? Hit this level, come down to the 236, hit this 200, come down, boom, alt season. Are we getting something similar? I truly wonder. Because I'm of the mind that 4-year cycle is not money flow cycle. I truly believe that. 4-year cycle does not line up with this anymore. This can come at any time. And Bitcoin dominance and ETH Bitcoin are kind of showing us. And also, take a look at this. Remember what I said about altcoins in a video this week or last week? If we see Total 3 hit this golden pocket, I might start foaming at the mouth. It perfectly hit that 50-month moving average. Golden pocket. Now I need to see confirmation. What is some of the stochastic just bottomed out? Will it stay bottomed? Like as it stays bottomed, is it going to stay here? That's what I wonder about. Let's take a look at some others. I like Ultimate RSI because Ultimate RSI sometimes gives you a reality check. Like, hey, it could be worse. We only recently crossed negative. Ultimate RSI, when it starts to really form a base, then here, yeah, once it gets above orange, that orange line, then we're good. But Ultimate RSI and a couple different charts are showing us, maybe we have further down to go. Yeah. Ultimate RSI is kind of the buzzkill of the party, but we need that reality. We need that reality to keep us in check. I like looking at all these different RSIs. It's reverse cutlers. We're not there yet. We're getting close. When we get there, though, I'll be talking about that on this channel. So right now I'm chilling. I'm stacking cash. I'm waiting for confirmation. Look at this. The MACD hasn't turned light red yet. You may not get the exact bottom, but you'll be close. So when the MACD on the monthly starts turning up, I hope you see, again, I don't swear by any one indicator, but when a number of them are agreeing with each other, I think that gives you a pretty close-ish idea. And no certainties, only probabilities. I'm looking for, am I within range of the bottom? And, there's enough indicators that give us a pretty confident idea. I wanted to take a look at Bitcoin Hunter again on the monthly. We talked about this last cycle. We bottomed at the 100 month. 2 cycles before, we bottomed at the 50. You can see Bitcoin Hunter has only been tagged 3 times on the monthly. Okay. Right now that's at 54K. So if we get like 45 to 50K, anywhere in here, basically, if we're getting some sort of a buy signal and positive structure, then I'll feel good about it. A couple comments here. Can you look into coin and MicroStrategy? Would love to. Are they still worth gaining now, or is it better to wait? .dev.x, appreciate you being here. Don't know if you just joined. One of the things I've been talking about is I am waiting for indicator confirmation. All right, first let me turn off a couple of these. I will show you what I mean by indicator confirmation. That 100 and that Bitcoin Hunter, by the way, the 100 moving average, those are areas that I will hit no matter what. But as far as confirmation, I'll just show you one. There's a few indicators I just talked about. Here's the stochastic. This is as simple as I can make it for one of them. This is where we get confirmation when we're completely bottomed out and then coming up into the shaded area. Okay, look where Bitcoin is at those moments. Again, completely bottomed out, coming up. We've completely bottomed out. One would think that we're going to spend, some time of this year, maybe half this year, if not more, down here. Once this curls up, then I'll feel better, because once we're down here, for comparison, look at how much lower the price went. So this tells me that we might have one more big flush from here. That's what this is telling me. So if we get stochastic coming up, if we get MACD, right now I'm being patient. I am being patient and I'm stacking cash. Look at the monthly MACD when we get shaded or light color red. Okay. What does it show back here? When we get light color red, that's pretty dang close. Here it was more of a flash crash. This is COVID. Okay. But each time, if you bought in when we got light color and we're dark red, then you have confirmation. So I'm just saying be patient. All right. Bitcoin's bearish right now. But let's take a look at coin and MicroStrategy. I am stacking cash, so when these indicators are looking better, like we've bottomed out and we're starting to come up. Right now we're going towards the bottom. We need to see that light red. We need to see the stochastic coming up. Light red, stochastic. Just on these 2 indicators. There's other indicators I talk about. I don't think we're done bottoming yet. Let's go to weekly, because coin's so new. I talk about I talk about MACD, look at the moving averages. That's positive pull right here. Here, we're in the negative territory. I want to see this flip positive. We're as negative as we've been since this very bottom. So the next time the weekly MACD flips up, I'll feel better. Whether or not it holds here or down here, I don't know. One of the things I talked about in a recent video is, coin looks like it's in a megaphone pattern. And I wanted to educate myself. I'm like, okay, what does a megaphone pattern do? And you can Google it to confirm, but whenever a megaphone pattern breaks, it kind of does this. That's No one ever accused me of being a good artist, but that's what it kind of does. Okay. If it breaks, whether up or down, that's what a megaphone pattern does. Okay. So it'll break underneath. And again, my trend line's drawing's not perfect, but you get my point. So Google megaphone pattern, look at Google images. That's what I'm basing that off of. Right. So, this one, I know the RSIs are very oversold. Everyone on Twitter, oh, the RSI is so oversold. RSI is a correlation. It's not a causation. All this is telling us is that, hey, we have oversold. The strength of this selling makes us oversold. But, we could be down here a while. Look at this, by the way. Let's say you're like, hey, we've never been this oversold. Yoink. And then here it went lower, even though the RSI went higher. You know what that is. That's bullish divergence. And that can happen. If you get bullish divergence, do you have the guts to buy here? You can V recover. You can get bullish divergence. You can be higher in price, higher in RSI. That's, again, why I think you need multiple indicators. Did I get all your comments? Let me go to MicroStrategy. Something important to watch with MicroStrategy. I talked about this a while ago. I encourage you to look at its share dilutions. It's confusing. Like, why does Michael Saylor, brag about buying at these tops? And one of the things I saw, whether it's true or not, and by the way, just look at this. Hit that 4236. You got to love Fibonacci, the golden ratio. Look at this. 1618. Retest former all-time highs. 3618, 4236, 3618. Okay, those were the tops, and then boom. But supposedly Michael Saylor buys near the top so they can dilute the shares more. And if you look at how much MicroStrategy's diluted shares since back here, personally, I'm a little surprised that it did as well as it did. All right. Now, if you made money on MicroStrategy, great. All right, let's take a look at some of these indicators. Here's one I like for simplicity purposes. And of course, when Bitcoin bottoms, let's just overlay Bitcoin, by the way, real quick. You can see when Bitcoin bottoms, MicroStrategy bottoms. MicroStrategy owns the most Bitcoin. Marathon Digital, the mining stock, owns the second most. These Bitcoin holders will only do as well as Bitcoin does. Mara didn't get in the AI game. They didn't share some of their computing power with AI data centers as much as these guys, and that's why they ran and Mara didn't. All right, but when Bitcoin's bottoming, MicroStrategy, Mara probably too, not too far from there. One of the simplest ways I like looking at MicroStrategy, this is the top, by the way, in 2021. Okay, we have this 200-month moving average down here. That held up support pretty good. There's a little bit underneath there. The 200 is right here at $70. We have the golden pocket here at 50. If we get any sort of a structure, Bitcoin looks like it's bottoming down here, I will be looking at that area and really considering. Okay. So again, I don't know if it's going to bottom there. Let's take a look at a couple of indicators I talked about before. I mean, hey, look at the stochastics bottomed out right now. When are we going to get this? Might it hang up here? I don't know. But I would look for more confirmation. I feel like I've talked about most things here. How's Ethereum, by the way? Ethereum, I was looking for 1,700. Dang, it got close. I was saying, check a buy order for 1,700. It was so close. Now, this thing, we don't know if it's done yet or if it's going to just tease us. Let's say there's enough massive buy orders. I know this isn't true, but it'd be funny. Like some hedge fund bro out there is watching Market Psychology 101 and his 1,000 subscribers saying, this guy's going to buy the 100, so I'm going to place a massive order right above the 100 month. That'll show him. He'll never get that discount. I know that's not happening, but like, makes you wonder. I do think we'll hit 1,700 more durably, by the way. Durably, indubitably. All right. Any requests for any altcoins or anything? I wanted to go over Bitcoin. Again, what I'm looking for. Do be careful of these numbers. Anytime I've seen Bitcoin rallying this much, it's usually been in a bear market. Okay. And actually, some of the biggest rallies, I'll have to find some almanac data out there, but usually some of the biggest rallies in stock market history happen during the bear market because you get these big dead cat bounces. Again, look at the mining stocks. You know, these have overall fallen. You'd think, wow, mining stocks are doing great. Look at Mara. Look at Mara. It's not great, Jim. Algo. We'll take a look at Algo, the Gary Gensler coin. This is Mara. You know, came right down to the, man, look at that fib. If you would have had a buy order at the 236 fib at 671, you'd be pretty happy right now. You know, if you're a trader, I would look at this area where they might send it down again at $9. See if it changes direction there. But yeah, you know, this is why we draw fibs, like to the penny. Let's take a look at the weekly. I mean, look at that. High to low, 236 fib. Boom. Just bounced perfectly. I love fibs and moving averages, man. I think they work very well, especially if you're just, you know, setting buy orders, looking for some good targets, some good discount targets. Now, if Bitcoin has more downside to go, you know, I would guess it might get the $5 or something. You know, we seen worse before. Okay. But if you bought any, and I believe we talked about this Tuesday, if you bought any Mara here and you said, you know what, that's a nice deep discount target, I believe in Mara, I will not blame you one bit, even if it goes lower. So let's take a look at Algo, the Gary Gensler coin. Gary Gensler, we were too harsh on you. You were only trying to protect us from all the garbage altcoins out there. Let's take a look at Algorand. Oh boy. So Algo, I mean, look at this. This is what a lot of altcoins did, by the way. From high to low, a lot of altcoins, you know, they hit their 0.5, their golden pocket. Not as many hit their 786 outside of, you know, some of the very, very best, you know, here or higher. But many altcoins had that 0.5 and then came down again. And what's Algo doing now? It's at its very lows. We had this uptrend and it broke it. It broke that uptrend. It did not hold on to it. Anytime you are under the 382 from your macro high to low, you could technically go even lower. So yeah, Algo, not so good right now. But let's take a look at some other indicators. For any of these low caps, you know, one of the things I really like to do is take a look at the MACD and when it's really flipping positive. Okay. So, for example, when the MACD was flipping positive, well, here is positive, you know, that's not a good example. Here we go. When it was negative and then blue got above orange, right in here. Very positive move. Right here. You know, had another flush here. Negative. Here. Nothing. You know, this is, man, that's as bearish as it can be. Again, I think this goes to show no indicator is perfect. You know, eventually it crossed up, but that last MACD cross wasn't good. You'd say overall it was. But now that it's very oversold, you know, I would wonder. But overall, man, this doesn't look great. Doge, please. Let's get into Doge. I'm sorry about your algo. I feel your pain. All right. I have Chainlink. Sorry, I'll come back to Doge. We can all cope together. Uh, Chainlink, you piece of crap. High to low. It got to the, this is more common for some of the medium to good alts. Like it got to the 618. And I talked about this. You guys heard me talk about this how much last year? I said, hey, when it was 2021, XRP Bitcoin Cash only went to the 618, 786. That's what I said about Doge. Okay. And I was like, yeah, that's my leading candidate for Doge to do that. I didn't expect the whole alt market, Chainlink and everything to do that. I was wrong about that. I'll raise my hand and admit that. Doge. Still negative. Holding that 236 wicked underneath. Could we have somewhat of a double bottom here? This 8-cent area looks like a possible decent area to buy. Let's go. Well, first of all, my fib's not perfect, so let's tweak that. I'm looking at that low area. Okay. The 236 so far is holding. Let me finish my coffee. I'm just curious. Fib, low to high. Yeah, it's at a look at that. Not only is that on the 236, the macro 236 high to low, but low to high, it hit that 786 perfectly. Now, has this bottomed? Is this a double bottom? I wouldn't call this a true double bottom, in my opinion. I would be expecting this to go down. But as I just talked about, XRP, Bitcoin Cash 2021, this is what they did. And I said, Doge is my leading candidate to underperform. But when you compare it by alts, it didn't really underperform. Now, I will also argue we didn't get the money flow cycle yet. You want some hopium? I got your hopium right here. The money flow cycle, I believe, is yet to happen and will be more right translated. This is what my thesis is, looking at the money flow. And some of you guys heard me say this. 2017, the 4-year cycle, the money flow cycle, it all went nice together. Okay. 2021, this was the 4-year cycle top. Here was alt season. Alt season was here. We had massive amounts of QE, and so money flow cycle came early. And the true top was later, right before the halving. So money flow cycle does not equal 4-year cycle. We had a 4-year cycle peak, but I believe after this bear market plays out, we might get money flow cycle to be the one before the halving or to be a mid-cycle top. Watch out for this. This was a mid-cycle top. I'm of the belief that with the way money flow is moving, that a mid-cycle top or the halving, we always pump into the halving, that a mid-cycle top or halving could be, those are my leading candidates for money flow. One of those. That's what I'm looking for. It didn't quite line up with the 4-year cycle. We had that divergence. But yeah, as far as Doge, sorry, got sidetracked, but I think it's all important. Let's take a look at some of these. I mean, it's very bottomed out right now. Again, when does it start crossing up after being dead for a while? This wasn't a bad area. Came up, came down, bullish divergence. This wasn't a bad area. So for MACD alone, you would have got Doge at 7 cents, at, somewhere around 8 cents. You would have to take a profit at about 5 to 6x. But for the large caps, that's what I'm looking for is profit, between a 3 to a 5x. That's what I'm looking for when I'm in the top 10, 3 to 5x. I'm being conservative. As we get lower, I'm looking for more 5 to 10x. And waiting to see what crypto is doing, Bitcoin overall. Some areas like you can't be too greedy and hoping for a 20x. You get a 5x, you get a 2x. That's amazing. You 2x $1,000 10 times, 1,000 to 2,000, 2 to 4, 4 to 8, 8 to 16, so on. If you 2x $1,000 10 times straight, you get $1 million. So, I will never tell you a 2x is bad. But Doge, like I think it still needs to bottom out. I think overall, crypto needs to bottom out. But I'm curious, where could look. Yeah, that's not good. Just taking a look at different indicators. I wonder if any of these might show you where a potential good bottom might be. Is this one even going to work? Meh. Speaking of Mayer multiple bands, what's that look like for Bitcoin right now? Do I need to go to weekly? There we go. Look at that. Mayer multiple bands. It's on green. We tagged yellow. Last cycle, we tagged and got underneath orange. So again, Bitcoin Hunter, maybe we get somewhere around the 50K area when we truly bottom. I can definitely be too greedy. I'd like to say I learned with Doge. However, we all make mistakes. We all have unrealized profits or losses where we make mistakes. But unless you make it count for something and mean something that you learn from it, and you apply what you learned in your strategy moving forward, you're going to make the same mistakes again. Every cycle I make mistakes, okay? So let me do this. I'll wrap up the video. I started out with saying, I have these assets, full disclosure. I'm not telling you to buy them. I have Fetch. I have Link. I have Wolf, Cypher, Mara, okay? Or I had. This isn't my exact numbers. I have more than these crypto assets, okay? Bought and sold more than just these. One of the things, I've made money each cycle doing this. I'm going to close on this and take from this what you will, not telling you what to do with your strategy. Let's say I invested $1,000 into each of them. Mara, Link, and Fetch did not make me money, so that's minus $3,000. Wolf and Cypher did. They both 10x. That's $20,000. Okay. 20 minus 3 is 17,000. I would have made 17,000. So that's power diversification. So each cycle I've kind of done this. And when I've lost money each cycle, I wonder, why is that? Why have I lost money each cycle? And if I'm going to learn something from this, Mara, I trusted the number one mining stock, and it was truly Bitcoin heavy. And with the money flow cycle not quite lining up with the 4-year cycle, Bitcoin did not pump as much as I hoped it would with this recent 4-year cycle. I was hoping for 150 to 200K. I think that will happen later on, as we move forward this cycle, or become more right translated. I think we will see 150 to 200K to the right of this cycle between the halvings. But it wasn't going to happen here. QE came back too late. Rate cuts came back too late. It's just not time. We need a little bit of a reset, in my opinion. Okay. Why didn't I make money on Chainlink and Fetch? Same thing. All the altcoins, pretty much outside of XRP and some others, underperformed. They went to their 0.5, their 618. So is it truly any of those altcoins going to pump later on? Like, let's say I'm right about an alt season being right translated, okay, over here. If I am correct about this, then I might not be wrong about those yet. I'm going to hold on to them and hope that, we get more of a pump here. If we're going to use XRP for comparison, which one do I want? I'll do this one. No, I need to do the other one. I need to do the US dollar one. If we use XRP by comparison, this was 2017. 2021, it underperformed. Okay. This is what we're hoping for with our altcoins, that we just went through this. And we want to see them kind of form a base and put in some structure. That is what we're hoping for. And then we truly get the pump, whether it's to former all-time highs, new all-time highs, something. This is what we're hoping for in our altcoins. This was the 4-year cycle for our altcoins. I hope you guys are following what I'm saying. It underperformed, and the XRP underperformed last cycle. This cycle, that's kind of what happened with many of our alts, if they even did this well. So I think because the money flow cycle didn't line up with the 4-year cycle, That is why we didn't make money on alts. So that's what I'm learning from this. And as we move forward this cycle, as the market goes through this corrective phase, with some of the tech, tech's been coming down a little bit. Once that starts to show more of a base structure, I think that'll work out better for us. But we're going to have to be more patient. Alt season is not a 4-year cycle. Okay, this is just getting longer each time. But the next time we get that alt season, and the metrics do show, we're on our way there. I want to take a look. MACD, remember, as long as we get a lower high, we are pulling in the right direction. And that might take a while. Maybe it's 2027, 2028. I don't know. But I haven't changed my approach on alts. I haven't given up on my alts. Maybe I'm wrong. Yeah. .devx or when are they a good buy? Let me make sure I get the full context here. Let's see. I can definitely be too greedy. But when will you be buying Cypher and Iron? Sorry, I missed that. Or when are they a good buy? Let's close with that, and then I'll get going. Cypher and Iron. Well, just for comparison's sake, let me go to Riot. So Riot. I bring this up because, during a bear market, and Riot's not the number one mining stock, but here's 2017, here's 2021. Okay, you see this negative MACD cross. Okay, you see how much Riot goes down. Even at best, it went down a lot. Okay, I'm looking for more macro confirmation, and I'm going to apply what I'm showing you here to the other ones. So let's go to the monthly. I like to zoom way out. So monthly, this was 2017, 2021, right? After 2017, when it bottomed, you would have got Riot maybe here and here, bullish divergence. You would have got it when it started to truly cross up here and here, okay? It didn't go up as much as we wanted, that's fine. But taking that logic forward to Iron and Cypher, right? Those are the two you asked about. Yeah, Iron and Cypher. I I know they're part of the AI deal, so that's a little different. I am hesitant on these. These things have ran up a lot. I am not touching them for a bit. I mean, Iron ran up 2,000%. I'm not buying up here while crypto may have only recently began its bear market a couple months ago. Again, if Bitcoin still has this 4-year cycle phenomena, which all intents and purposes it does, I'm not buying in that close to our last local top. I'm going to be patient. All right. And there's other indicators too. And I just showed you, by the way, here's what Iron did. And yes, I know it's part of the AI thing. And if you bought Iron down here, you have over a 10x. Consider some profit taking maybe. Cypher, same deal. I'm not buying this close to the top after, where I bought, it already ran up over 1,000%. A 10x is a 10x. Don't be greedy. So, when things are truly bearish, I don't know if, because how these are part of the AI deal, if they're going to have the same fall. I will say, as far as AI, you've seen memes of how all the money is going into one company and it's going into another and back to the original. Once that unwinds, is that not like some sort of kind of what got FTX in trouble in the first place? When you have this circle of funds, once that pattern turns negative and you have, Microsoft investing in the Amazon, investing in the Google, investing in NVIDIA, investing back in the Microsoft. Once that money and earnings turn negative, that will unwind as well. And so I am being patient and I'm just stacking cash right now because we're seeing tech and semis take a little bit of a beating recently. So I am not touching these until Bitcoin looks truly bottom. When Bitcoin looks truly bottom, and I talked about that at the beginning of the video, in different indicators, then I will look at these. But for right now, I'm fine just waiting. There's always another play. You don't always have to, FOMO in, FUD it, and there's always another play. I will be patient until I am very confident. And let's, just remind you guys, some things I'm looking for. Bitcoin Hunter. Here's two of my favorites that I'm looking for. The monthly stochastic, flipping up, Bitcoin Hunter. Bitcoin Hunter, monthly stochastic. You're getting great prices at both. Bitcoin Hunter, monthly stochastic. Okay, right in there. Bitcoin Hunter, again, Bitcoin Hunter, that's the indicator. Monthly stochastic. So if we get here, maybe I'm buying the Bitcoin Hunter first and the monthly stochastic later at a lower price. That's fine. I will buy in there. But once that is looking like a good bottom's been put in, and there's other indicators I'm going to keep talking about, then I'll feel better about going into some of the more speculative. Remember, Bitcoin is a speculative tech asset. The mining stocks, the altcoins are even more speculative. So this needs a bottom first. It is not truly confirmed a bottom yet. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for being here. I hope you all are hanging in there. Charles, thank you. Thank all of you. I hope you guys have a great weekend. Enjoy the Super Bowl. I'm guessing the Seahawks will win. My wife's a Seahawks fan. Bless her heart. I've made fun of her so much, for ever thinking Geno Smith was a good quarterback. So I will root for her team this weekend. Sorry if any of you are from the Northeast, but, you've been blessed for a while. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful weekend. Enjoy the Super Bowl, all that. And take care. Have a wonderful day. Doop, doop, doop.